Hi, my name is Nathan, and today we're going to do a comic book review of Ma, issue number 2, brought to you by Rated Comics. Let's get to it. Now, on this second issue of this 5-part horror series, we start off with 1 week after Marion's attack when she was sexually assaulted and raped at a bar nearby this feminist woman retreat. She's watching Diana Spiro, the head of this retreat, on YouTube from what it looks like comic book version about how astonishing resilient women are. How much disrespect and dignity and actual trauma must the average woman endure just to get through her day? How much must she rise above? And Marion's like, whatever, girl. You're wearing a $5,000 pantsuit. What do you know about trauma? We don't know. We know what Marion went through. So we get a ring on the doorbell. She gets steak delivered to her for dinner. And she talks about, I haven't risen above anything that happened to me. The rape, the court case. She's referencing what happened in issue number 1. Everyone took a chunk out of me. I didn't endure or triumph. I just survived because you know what happens if we don't put up with it? They call us monsters. And she takes a bite of the meat, symbolizing of what she's been through with the rape, and if she speaks out against it, then she's looked frowned upon. Now we see Wendy at this retreat where a lady is confessing their traumas to the goddess of this feminist retreat. I totally forgot what the goddess name is, if it was mentioned. And the trauma that she talks about was in her publishing house job. It was a really good job. She worked there her whole life, and there were stories about this door that sounded crazy where the girls who went into his office, it took a while for them to come out, and he just abuses these women, and she went through that trauma too, and she grieves. So now they grieve to mother because now their trauma are the mother's trauma, so they kind of pass it along and alleviate themselves of that. Now they call for Wendy to divulge her trauma. What have you lost to male violence? And Wendy's like, well, my sister went through something, and they're like, no, we don't borrow trauma here. What have you personally been through, Wendy? And she's like, then we go to the next thing, and Marion's like, you passed the trauma? Like, you passed it like a blunt? And she's like, well, I don't know. I know terrible things happen to other women, but my life it's been a nice life. I mean, I'm sorry. What, do I have the right to feel sorry for myself? And then Marion's like, well, I guess so. I mean, you know, you have a Greg. You're Greg. I know Greg, so you do have a right. And Wendy's like, be nice. Greg paid for us to be here. And Marion's like being cynical with all the more reason. And then back to Marion, Wendy tells her, you haven't gone out your cabin this whole week. It scares you. What have you been going through? And Marion looks down because it's a very tough experience on what she has to describe. Wendy comes out and tells him, well, Marion wanted to meet Diana Spiro in issue number 1 because she was in the behind the scenes doing her thing, whatever it is that she's doing. Now Wendy tells her today is a day where you get to meet her, and then Diana comes out with these lesbians are wielding axes. I mean, it's an image right there. I find it funny, but at the same time, eerie at the same time. So when Diana meets Wendy, Diana Spiro tells Wendy about Roberta Vladik built this place. She was a socialist, a suffragist, a spiritualist. She foresaw the male god's time was ending, and after that millennia of being silenced, degraded, or subjugated, Roberta had a vision to rise, the rise of the great mother. And then Marion deduces that Roberta Vladik, was she raped or something? Now Roberta Vladik is going to be an older female that would rise to power and reclaim the world. And then there's a reference to a Ouija board that Marion's like, so we're here because of a Ouija board told her to kill a god. She's like, oh no. Diana tells her, I'm here because of my husband. Are you familiar with Howard Thorson? And they're like, yeah, we know about his book. His book is really great. Well, it turns out Howard Thorson radicalized his generation. He taught us to hate the machines and all the great things he did, but he beat her hard, so hard that he fractured her jaw and left her deaf in one ear. People loved him too much. They loved him too much to see it. At one point when she decided to leave him, she was 8 months pregnant, and she tried to warn people about her husband. It's not the kind of guy who you think he is, but he said he'll put her in a mental institution. I lost every friend, every opportunity, all credibility. She lost everything. And the little money she had from her dead money, I used it towards Howard's son, and I had the book by Roberta Vladik. So she tells Mary, I know what happened to you, Mary. It happened a week ago. Before that, I read about your case where she talked about in issue number 1 where the judge just overlooked it. The people just overlooked it. Despite the trauma she went through, they viewed it as just sheer fun, and she didn't know what he was doing. She enjoyed it. And she's like, I know you're angry and cynical because I'm like that. I'm angry and cynical. I've been both. And anger is also part of the goddess Marion. It helps make her heart beat. Remember that. And it was just like Marion's like, okay. Now meanwhile, Wendy's trying to find a way to blend in. So she goes to this guy jokes around that he's the male oppressor and he's the one that drives a woman around or drives a woman to the compound. And she's like, what are you doing? And he's just lighting it up like it's Coachella style. And she's like, give me some of that. And then Wendy's like, well, I paid $6,000 to hear proms and I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm trying to find a way to fit in. So after some conversation, it deduces what Wendy's situation is. She has 2 children, Aston and Tyler, 6 and 8. And she's a stay-at-home mom. And she agreed to be a stay-at-home mom until they were old enough to go to school. When they started to go to school, she didn't enjoy being a housewife in the 50s. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't know how to get a job or what job she wants. And it's not that she just didn't not enjoy being a housewife. It was just, am I more than just a mom? Am I just a mom? I mean, I just hate being known as just a mom. I haven't read for fun. I can name every character on PJ Masks, but not my congressman. I have more opinions on breastfeeding than I have breasts. I come here to find out what else am I, and I don't know. It's a question I can't answer. So the oppressor, and I'm joking when I say this because he jokes about it. The driver tells her, well, have you ever relaxed in college once in your life? She's like, yeah, and it's a bond that they had. So he gave her his number, like, call me, I grow this stuff. If you ever just want to relax and unwind and just let loose. But meanwhile, Dinah shows up with these lesbian accents and she's pissed. Like, not my guest. Don't do that to my guest. Don't be trying to come on to my guest. She's like, what? Like, I was just exchanging mail. She wanted to send mail back home. Leave me alone, Diana. And you can tell he's terrified with these women wielding axes. And there's nothing settling about that. There's nothing. So as for former punishment, she tells his driver to double the run of groceries this week because the women don't feel safe. And that's all. So the last message the driver tells Wendy is, be careful. People come to my mother to escape their lives. They never get what they expect. This seems like some kind of foreshadowing. And now we get to how Marion's trauma transforms her and how it transformed with another 2 encounter of these 2 men fishing at the beach, and it is very unsettling. And I got to leave a little meat on the bone here. I mean, when I first read Ma issue number 1, I thought it was a cool story of going through trauma and the after effects with the horror element to it. But I wasn't thoroughly convinced with going into the second issue, but I wanted to give it a try. And I got to say, I'm kind of looking forward to what issue number 3 is. Not that I'm ace, like this book is an ace, I want to go for it, but it's like, I'm curious now. It's not a bad story, and it talks about Marion's struggle, and it doesn't focus on, the rape. Because if it just focuses on the rape and what she went through and to make it a spectacle of that, I don't find that interesting. What does make it interesting is the after effects of this sexual assault and the aftermath that Marion went through. It focuses on that. And the conversation with Marion that she has with herself, how she simply survived, I'm sure that must ring true for others that may have been through the same. I don't know, it's a touchy subject to talk about. But I gotta give credit to the creators for not making this a spectacle about sexual assault, but the aftermath. And I think, and putting a horror element to it, I think that's a very interesting twist, and I will be reviewing issue number 3 because I was kind of debating about not reading issue number 2. And you know what? I'm glad I did. So with that being said, Ma, issue number 2, what you guys think of the comic book? Comment below, let me know. Also, if you want to get a copy of your comic book, link in description if you wish to purchase from RatedComics.com. And plus, I prefer you purchase it from RatedComics.com. If you like the content we're throwing up, you know what to do. Don't be shy, don't be stingy. We do awesome comic book reviews, comic book related content with the occasional comic book giveaway. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.